Hi, I'm Jess Lampy, a tech leader at Launch Consulting. Welcome to Why Isn't This AI Thing Working? It's the question most companies hit once the AI pilot ends and real work begins. The investment's been made, the tools have been rolled out, and somewhere between the demo and the day-to-day, things stall. This podcast is about figuring out why and what actually works instead.
And today we've got Nick Polachek. Nick, welcome.
Thanks, Jess. Glad to be here.
Excellent. Nick, you are currently working on a white paper that you're planning on releasing called Build an AI Business Case Your CFO Will Actually Approve. Why did you feel the need to write a white paper covering that topic in this day?
I just think it's one of the major questions that our clients and potential clients are asking. As we've been out together at the Microsoft Executive Briefing Centers, probably talked to 100 clients over the last few months, and I would say 80 to 90% of them feel that they don't understand how to measure the success of AI in their business. And it's supported by a lot of other research out there from the other major consulting firms, the common challenges from the Microsoft Frontier firm, and many other white papers out there.
What are some of the pitfalls you've heard from folks you've spoken with regarding measuring the financial success of AI projects?
Well, I think the biggest one is just where to start. The default way that a lot of companies have been looking at it is from a cost savings perspective or headcount reduction. And that can work if you have a major corporate initiative and you're doing it across your whole company. But if you're implementing smaller use cases, often you're making everyone more efficient or taking 20 or 30% of work off of people's plate. So you can't really cut them from the company or grab that cost savings. It's really challenging. So what a lot of companies are seeing is they're spending the money for licenses and people are getting a little bit more efficient, but they don't really see the impact to their bottom line or their top line.
I think that's a really good point. I know that there was a Gartner study not too long ago that found that there was no correlation in profitability for companies that were tightly coupling AI implementation with job cuts. However, what they did find was companies that were viewing AI investment as an augmentation of an existing resources, those companies were seeing higher returns on investment than the other companies. So it does seem like the data is aligning with that as an approach. What kind of mindset do you think goes along with that for companies that are viewing AI more as an investment in people than a pure cost cut play?
I think it's twofold. One, when companies are evaluating where they want to apply AI, which is really the most important part of deciding and getting started, the companies that are most successful are looking for places where they have capacity constraints with the existing team, or they need to produce more throughput. One of the items that's commonly cited in the Gartner study and the Microsoft study is on within the sales process. When companies are looking to use AI in their sales process and increase throughput of customer conversations and lead conversion, there's a very clear correlation to revenue growth. And that's a place where you're not looking to cut people, you're looking to invest in that team and make them more efficient. I think you can apply that throughout the organization, whether it's similar corollaries in software development. Most companies have a backlog of software that could benefit the organization, but they don't have enough talent to do it. If you make your software engineers more efficient, you can produce more output versus thinking of it as a cost-cutting initiative. The second part is just investing in people. When you give people the tools they need, you see a lot of innovation happening from the ground. And although that might be harder to measure the benefit in the short run, those companies who are employees are becoming AI native and AI power users are likely going to see those returns down the road versus the companies that aren't giving those employees the tools.
That makes sense. Now, related and on that front, a lot of people right now are, or I know at least in the conversations I've been having, people are concerned about the shift in the pricing models for a lot of LLMs, switching to token based pricing only. And the big fear is that it's going to be harder to justify the spend on AI. When you and I have talked about this, you've mentioned that this type of pricing experience isn't too dissimilar from what you've experienced before with other technologies. Do you want to talk a little to that?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of parallels between migration to the cloud and use of AI models, and those parallels happen because they're both dynamic pricing models, and um, they can both change, and your cost can go up or down based on what people are doing. I think the part that makes AI a little bit more complicated is most of the time when you're thinking about a cloud pricing model, the IT or technology team has a lot of control around how that infrastructure is set up. When you're looking at dynamic pricing within a use case or within an end user using it, unless you put the right guardrails in place, I think it's a little bit easier than in the cloud world to overconsume tokens or have unexpected bills. But the solutions are similar.
Excellent. And now in your white paper, you've got a 6-step process that you recommend folks go through in order to help have that conversation with the CFO. Do you want to give me just like a quick overview of what the key elements of that are?
Yeah. So the first step is really decide what your business case is. And it goes back to the beginning of our conversation. Are you looking for places where you can drive increased throughput or key benefits to the organization? Because picking the right place to start solves a lot of downstream problems. Um, and then after that, really take a double click into how you think you're going to achieve that benefit. Going back to the sales process that we talked about
Mm-hmm.
earlier, get very specific. Like, do you think that AI is going to help your customer conversion rate, or is it going to build the top of the funnel, or both? But by defining your assumptions that make your business case valid, you can start measuring those from the beginning. The third step is then take a look at the cost side, the full
Mm-hmm.
cost side. And that includes the models that you're going to use, the extra infrastructure you're going to have to build, and the people cost. And that's where that model selection becomes really, really critical. When you're doing the cost side, don't assume you need the frontier model. They're very expensive. So really think through which model will make or break this process. Step 4, don't forget about the platform piece. You're going to need access to data. You're going to need this to run somewhere. Make sure you have that holistic model built in. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then the fifth step is, once you understand that and you have that model built, um, make sure you have the guardrails in place to make the cost predictable, or at least if the cost uh, is going above what you expected, have the guardrails in place to monitor it, understand it, and even put a stop to it before that bill comes in. And really, the final step, and probably one of the most important, is um, make sure that there's a checkpoint, usually around 90 days to measure it, but get it into production as soon as possible and start measuring it and looking at these metrics as you're building it out and refine it. And I think if you go through that process, it helps you orient to the right place and then monitor it all the way through. But we're in a time when there's a lot of uncertainty around AI and whether it will work in certain use cases. So it also gives you the process to pull the plug if it's not working before you overinvest.
Absolutely. Another element of your white paper that I really enjoy is, and I've seen this in a couple of the white papers you write. You end with a activities to start doing this very week. Tell me a little bit about why you lean into that type of thinking with AI. Why the encouragement to get people moving quickly on this in 1 week?
Well, I think there's a couple of different reasons. One, there's a lot of analysis paralysis right now going on in the industry where people are afraid to get. I think it's hard to sit back and guess on whether it's going to work or not. You got to get started. You have to really think through where it goes, and then you have to build proof of concepts and prototypes that can go into production to get the value. And you won't be able to do that by making decks or plans behind the scenes. I think that the second part of that is from all of the customer conversations that I've been in, companies are having the most success in a use case by use case approach. So getting started allows you to take a step back from the overall, how am I going to roll this out across my whole organization, all the places I'm stuck, and say, where can I see value and prove it in one place and get momentum? And I think that's where I really see companies having success and finding success is in the doing versus the thinking about it.
Excellent. Any other major takeaways you want to leave people with?
I think some of the other things that we want companies to think about is really that balance between getting started and having a plan. We talk a lot about the getting started, having one use case in place, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't have some strategic direction on your overall platform, how, the cloud infrastructure strategy, how AI is going to access data, how you're going to do monitoring. All those things are really important, but you don't have to build out that whole platform and you don't have to solve for all of it before you get started. You just have to make sure you have a direction so that each use case isn't going in a wildly different direction.
I would agree. I believe that there are very key things that any solution you are building, whether it's AI, a more traditional service run on a container or a VM, there are some common sense things that you need to implement and honor your existing data governance practices and policies like that. I think that's doable. I sometimes feel like leveraging the existing policies should be sufficient. Your AI governance and AI platform governance will be fairly similar to the existing elements you have in play. Just if you end up thinking about LLMs as another service, if you treat it as something that is either deployed into your own internal systems or as an external third-party service that you're calling data to, handle it according to your existing policies and make moves in order to validate the solutions and see if something can work. I think there's definitely value in moving faster to understand it. That's even if you can apply it to your use cases rather than delay and looking for perfection in any of these spaces.
Yep. And I think that's a place where a lot of companies are stuck right now, is the balance between I need to figure everything out versus what can I use in my existing policies, and a place where the technology side can play a big role in making sure the business feels comfortable. I think another takeaway from this is really it's who is building these business cases and who's taking them to the CFO. I mean, you're a technologist, so or more so than me, so you probably know that some of the challenges if you're asking a technologist to take these on their own to the CFO, for a business case. I think that's a big challenge in the industry, is who owns it.
One of the things that you can observe in this space is perhaps the people that are most inclined to want to experiment with these solutions and potentially experiment with them in a way that best honors your data policies. There may be a disconnect between how those technologists can feel enabled or empowered within their organization to leverage those tools or build things out. And I don't have to be technologically elitist. I think there's a lot of creative people out there too that are trying to leverage AI solutions. The models that we've heard people having a lot of success with are ones in which you can build an environment in which people can kind of crawl, walk, run. Make it possible for them to access agent building resources while you're still capable of monitoring the consumption and usage of those. And have a team of AI engineers or technologists ready to support if they see one that's getting a lot of use from other individuals, and then working to identify how to extend it and give it access to more of the resources it needs in a safe and secure way. I think we're seeing a little bit more of that right now, as an effective strategy to get moving without feeling like you have to solve every problem immediately.
And I think that's a great, what I would call more of a grassroots strategy, to get people using it and to almost crowdsource use cases and ways to solve problems. But if you flip over to a corporation is going to make a major investment in building out an agentic use case, oftentimes it's really the business stakeholder who has to either own that business case or at least partner closely with the technology team to take that to the CFO. Because yes, the technologists will be able to help the business understand how the technology can help them, but at the end of the day, the business leader, the CEO or business unit leader, has to be able to sign off on, like, yes, these business metrics are going to improve based on my understanding of what we're going to do here. And without that, I think the relying on the technology organization on its own to make those decisions is a challenge right now.
Excellent. Well, we're at about time. Nick, thank you very much for your time today.
All right, thanks, Jess. So it's great catching up with you again.